Do you know what we're here for?
Equal parts. Oh my gosh.
Illegal.
Okay. Gonna get environmental with it. Got a lot of different stuff to talk about here today as it relates to not just the climate, but human environments, cities, all sorts of stuff. I'm gonna attempt to do, as it's Sunday Fun Day, can't just do climate doom, gotta do some climate, I don't know, productivity. Let's start here. This is NBC LA from 12 hours ago. Rancho Palos Verdes residents scramble for next steps amid power shutoff. By the way, the reason for the shutoff is
and more
crazy.
Bad news for residents living in the Portuguese Bend community here in Rancho Palos Verdes. SoCal Addison is ready to flip the switch to turn off the electricity. It is the latest blow to people trying to save their homes and amid this continuous land movement underneath. NBC4's Annette Ariola live in Rancho Palos Verdes this morning with the announcement expected later today. Annette, good morning. What's the latest?
Michelle, good morning to you. Hello, everybody. Well, as you can imagine, folks out here are really frustrated, very concerned, saying that they were only given a 24 hours notice, letting them know that their power would be shut down indefinitely. Now, Southern California Edison says that there was a small fire this past Thursday, and that is why they've had to do this. They say that fire was caused by an electrical line that fell to the ground because of the land movement. After that incident, the utility company determined that it was no longer safe to continue servicing the area. Now, the shutoffs will impact roughly 140 homes in the Portuguese Bend region of Rancho Palos Verdes. Southern California Edison says they don't have a time or date as to when power could be restored. And now residents have spent the weekend really trying to figure out exactly what they're going to do next. Take a listen.
Well, that sucks. I don't know about you, but suddenly being told that you had to either deal with having no power or leaving your home due to a sudden shift in the ground around your home, that would, that'd be somewhat alarming, I think, on multiple levels. 64 likes. It's not possible. It's inconceivable. Okay, let's go on to this. This is another Democracy Now! Piece from a couple of days ago discussing Kamala Harris's views on the environment and most specifically fracking.
Climate and everything are the same word.
I want to turn now to the issue of climate, which hasn't come up that much during this presidential campaign, but it was addressed Thursday when CNN's Dana Bash questioned Vice President Harris about her change in position on the methane gas drilling process known as fracking, which saw a boom in the U.S. and Canada and has been linked to a surge in methane gas emissions over the past decade, which are one of the biggest contributors to the climate crisis.
When you were in Congress, you supported the Green New Deal. And in 2019, you said, quote, "There is no question I'm in favor of banning fracking." Fracking, as you know, is a pretty big issue, particularly in your must-win state of Pennsylvania.
Sure.
Do you still want to ban fracking?
No, and I made that clear on the debate stage in 2020, that I would not ban fracking. As vice president, I did not ban fracking. As president, I will not ban fracking.
In 2019, I believe, in a town hall, you said you were asked, would you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking on your first day in office? And you said, there's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So yes. So it changed in that campaign?
In 2020, I made very clear where I stand. We are in 2024, and I've not changed that position, nor will I going forward. I kept my word, and I will keep my word.
What made you change that position at the time?
Well, let's be clear. My values have not changed.
This is very frustrating. Now, fact is that while her stance on this, I do not agree with her at all on what she's saying and what she's about to say about all this. It's still somehow technically slightly better than Donald Trump's energy policy, which is just literally drill baby drill. Not just natural gas, but also just oil in general. But it's just, it's so misguided for someone such as herself to be claiming that fracking and natural gas are somehow a good solution to our energy future. Is somehow part of a sustainable transition to a renewable energy future. It's just not. It's not. No matter how much we want to believe it, everything that we've seen here on this stream together says the exact opposite about it.
I believe it is very important that we take seriously what we must do to guard against what is a clear crisis in terms of the climate. And to do that, we can do what we have accomplished thus far. The Inflation Reduction Act, what we have done to invest, by my calculation, over probably $1 trillion over the next 10 years, investing in a clean energy economy. What we've already done, creating over 300,000 new clean energy jobs. That tells me, from my experience as vice president, we can do it without banning fracking. In fact, Dana, excuse me,
I don't think she's actually seen the research. From this answer, this is what I want to believe. Because of the way that she framed it, it makes me believe that she doesn't actually know the science. And that she just needs somebody who's a scientist to tell her what's actually going on with this, right? That's what I want to believe. Because she's just saying, because we've created jobs, it's possible. And that is in no way a way to define whether or not it is somehow sustainable for the environment. It's just the wrong framing. You know, saying that we've sustained it with capitalism sustaining it, so of course it'll work, it'll be fine. Why don't we, and it's like, no, don't.
Tie-breaking vote that actually increased leases for fracking as vice president.
Oh, shit.
So I'm very clear about where I stand.
So we turn now to David Sirota, founder and editor-in-chief of The Lever, host of its new investigative podcast, Master Plan. He's also an Oscar-nominated co-writer of Don't Look Up, that satirical film about a comet hurtling toward Earth, a metaphor for climate change. So, David, this change in position, when Kamala Harris was first running for president in 2019, right, she said she was against fracking. That's primaries. She's appealing to the base of the Democratic Party. But now she didn't have to go through the primaries, and she's appealing to the population at large. Can you respond to what she said?
Well, I think what was most problematic about what she said was that she said that the Inflation Reduction Act means that they can hit the carbon emissions targets that they want to hit, when in fact this year there was a report out quite recently saying that the Inflation Reduction Act has certainly reduced carbon emissions in the United States, but not nearly on track to what the Biden-Harris administration has projected and has pledged to hit by 2030. So she's saying the Inflation Reduction Act can can bring down emissions without having to do anything like banning fracking, when the data says exactly the opposite, that there's going to need to be much more done to reduce carbon emissions. And I think the takeaway here is what we've seen from the Biden-Harris administration generally, which is they are willing to make real investments in the supply side of clean energy. They are willing to make real investments in the green energy economy, but they have shied away from policy that would reduce the supply of oil and gas. I mean, they have expanded leases. They have.
Yeah, I think part of it, it's not just this administration, because we've been aware of this issue for a while. And it's something that's been going on for a long time, which is essentially just this belief that somehow science will be so good at some point that it won't matter how much fossil fuels we burn. That's just not, I mean, at least currently, not true, right? And we only have a set amount of time to deal with these issues. So these kinds of nonsense sorts of beliefs, non-scientific sorts of conclusions need to be taken out of the public domain, sphere of conversation, at least in my opinion. And it was really unfortunate, in my, once again, in my estimation, that Kamala chose to do that. But I'll take somebody who is open to talking about the science and listening to things than drill baby drill. I can still be disappointed. Somewhere in between there, I can still be disappointed. Ah, oh, God. By the way, if you don't know Dave Sirota, he's like a journalist I can't remember, he's an investigative journalist, I'm pretty sure. But I can't remember who he worked for. No, I think he went The Lever. I think that's his organization. I think he went out on his own. I can't remember who he used to work for. Maybe the Times. I genuinely can't remember. I'm pretty sure he was also involved in the writing of, what was it? What's it called? Don't Look Up. The movie with Leonardo DiCaprio and the girl from Hunger Games. I can't remember her name. Jennifer Lawrence? I don't know. Why are we talking about the Hunger Games now? Alright, let's go on. Talk about oil companies. Well, a specific oil company. That being Shell. Here's Reuters from 2 days ago. Shell plans wide cuts in oil exploration division.
What?
Shell plans to scale back its oil and gas exploration and development workforce by 20%. That's what company sources have exclusively told Reuters. They say CEO Wael Sawan will expand his cost savings drive to the highly profitable division after deep cuts in renewables and low carbon businesses. The sources added restructuring will see hundreds of jobs go around the world.
Baby driver is a baby job? Okay, I see what you're saying. So you're saying that we're somehow baby drivers? People, like adults who are driving babies, are taking away jobs from babies. And that's why the Obama, Kamala, Biden administration wants to give babies $6,000? I see. I see. Well, if we just gave those jobs back to babies.
It will be particularly felt at its offices in Houston, The Hague, and to a lesser degree in Britain. The planned 20% reduction is subject to consultations with employee representatives bodies, according to the sources. Shell's oil and gas production division made up over 1/3 of the company's $28 billion in adjusted earnings last year. Exploration is vital for oil and gas companies in order to replenish depleting reserves and discover new resources. A Shell spokesman would not comment on the reduction figures. Shell shares were slightly up Friday morning following the news. Swan took off.
So I've been trying to figure out why Shell is choosing to do this, because that answer is insufficient, and it's interesting. It makes me wonder why. Like, what could, I mean, maybe they believe prices are going to go down from where they are. Maybe they finally come to the conclusion that their industry is destroying the earth. That's the last of my guesses. Okay. Now let's go to ProPublica. ProPublica, great news organization, the very best.
Immediately, if not sooner.
They are the people who broke the undercover Project 25. Just call it Project 25 again. The Project 2025 undercover interview with the founder. Oh God, what's his name? I can't think today. My brain is broken. Anyway, let's go here. This is ProPublica. I don't know. I'm telling you who ProPublica is. Pretty sure most people know who they are. How power-hungry data centers are hindering Washington's clean energy push.
Climate and everything are the same word.
What you talking about?
Did you know that a search on ChatGPT consumes 10 times more electricity than a single Google search? The data centers that power these searches, along with so many other things in our digital lives, are seeing explosive growth. And these data centers require so much computing power that their global energy consumption could double 2022's demand by 2026. The Pacific Northwest is home to a large data center market, and Washington State alone has at least 87 of these server farms. In the 2000s, Microsoft and Yahoo started building data centers in central Washington, drawn to some of the cheapest electricity rates in the US because of the state's clean hydropower dams. In 2010, as a way to create jobs after the Great Recession, lawmakers started giving tax breaks to data centers. The tax cuts lapsed, were quickly reinstated, and then expanded in 2015 and again in 2022 when data centers became one of Washington's largest corporate subsidies. Companies have saved more than $474 million since 2018, and Microsoft has gotten about 65% of those savings. The state is now at a crossroads because in 2019, the legislature passed a measure to make Washington's electric utilities carbon neutral by 2030. But at the same time, lawmakers keep encouraging the growth of the data center industry through the tax breaks. In one Washington county, data centers now consume more power than any other category of ratepayer, nearly 40%. Utility officials said that the increased demand made relying on the county's dams risky, so they signed contracts with big companies that trade in energy, exchanging most of its hydropower for a steady supply of electricity generated by other unspecified sources of energy, which experts say are usually carbon-emitting fuels like natural gas.
Yeah, it's just natural gas and coal. It's just piles of coal getting thrown into furnaces like it's the fucking Titanic or something. No, not sustainable. So yeah, ChatGPT searches, and that's just one, right? There's so many AI, like platforms, search platforms. There's AI design platforms. There's AI environmental stuff. I mean, some of this stuff is good. Some of it is maybe less important, right? I've personally used some AI stuff, right? Thankfully, you know, I don't know, whatever. Like, I'm kind of a pack rat to some degree, so I have like pretty much all of the AI searches I've ever done. Just kept them, saved them all. Not on the cloud either, on a drive. But yeah, no, it's something I think about. Like whenever I'm like, oh my god, AI would be super cool for this or that thing. I'm like, wait, is this worth 10 times as much as a Google search? Will Google get this done? And most times my answer to myself is yes. So I just go with the Google search lately. Really have been trying my best to do that. To at least just make the assessment, right? Like if you're using AI to, I don't know, save the environment, save the earth, to come up with a cure for cancer, I'm all for it. Use that energy. I'm about it. Okay, now let's talk more about energy production in general. We were already pretty much getting into that just now. Might as well finish this, continue this conversation in a number of different ways. First, let's start with CBS. This is them attempting this conversation. How the U.S. is attempting to go carbon-free.
Thanks, Jeff, for the question.
The U.S. is looking to produce a record amount of clean energy in 2024, and right now it is actually on track to do so. Almost all of the new electricity generation capacity in the U.S. added in the first half of the year came from carbon-free sources, according to the U.S. Energy Information Agency.
Hell yeah.
This includes wind, solar, battery storage, and nuclear power. For more, let's bring in CBS News national environmental correspondent David Schechter from Dallas. So, David, the nation added 20 gigawatts of new capacity in the first half of 2024. For context, that's enough to power 15 million homes. What are the biggest sources of new power?
Now, is it all going to new homes, or is it going to power Peter Thiel's AI, whatever, or whoever? Peter Thiel, is he an AI? I'm pretty sure he's an AI.
Well, natural gas used to be king, but now it makes up just a fraction of the new generation that we've been talking about here. Instead, solar leads the way, accounting for almost 60% of new power. And a lot of it's coming from some mega solar projects that have been built in Texas and Florida. After that, you might think the next category would be wind, which would be logical, but it's actually battery storage at about 20% of new generation.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about batteries and their importance in being able to achieve the clean energy goals that the U.S. is setting out to actually on track, it sounds like, to achieve and hoping to achieve.
Yeah, right. Well, battery storage has become real popular because you can store energy when it's not needed and then release it when it is. So imagine like a big wind blowing in West Texas overnight, and the wind turbines are spinning really hard, but people are sleeping and they don't need the energy. In that case, that excess power would just go to waste. But with batteries, you can store that power until the morning.
Exactly, and the same thing goes for for solar, right? One big thing about solar is that it's generating the most electricity in the middle of the day when most people are, kids are at school, people are at work, and there's a lot less draw on the grid, because people are using communal spaces, right? And then at night everybody goes back home, but there's more electricity so essentially they turn off power generation at certain times in the day because it's not needed. So technically batteries are creating an energy opportunity by increasing the energy capacity of different grids, and being able to take this excess power and hold on to it for later, which is great. It really is great. Yeah, and it's something that we've been needing to be working on, how to use these renewable energies to their maximum capacities, how to, deal with some of these inherent downfalls with each of the technologies that exist.
When people wake up, they got stuff to do, they need energy, and that power is now available, but it's coming from a battery.
And David, I have to say, I was so excited when we were discussing this story because so often it seems like we are reporting all the ways in which we have failed to meet our energy goals, our clean power goals, any of our climate goals. And in this case, I understand that the country is actually on pace to double the amount of new solar this year compared to last year, and a record amount of battery storage. Talk to us about the impact here on climate change, recognizing that there's still a lot of work to do.
Sure. Yeah, well, the transition is obviously critical for the country to hit its targets, this energy transition for reducing carbon emissions, which are the primary cause of climate change. At the moment, the emissions from the power sector are not falling fast enough to stay on target, even though all this new generation is being built. The solution.
Yeah, because we spent the 3 years previous to this year doing a bunch of new gas explorations and other things like that. People act like Joe Biden was not a pro-oil, pro-gas president. That's the furthest thing from the truth. He did a historical number. Joe Biden did a historical number of oil and gas drilling. I know sometimes I say it's not true. It's because I don't like it. But I didn't do it as good as Joe. Okay, let's go to this. OCC, aka Our Changing Climate. It's from a couple of days ago. This is how we build socialist power. Literally.
In 2021, Texas's source of energy lay vulnerable. For decades, private utility companies neglected their duties by eschewing oversight and prioritizing profit over preparedness. They failed to winterize the grid, making it susceptible to damage from extreme weather events that ultimately resulted in widespread blackouts and suffering for millions of Texans. A preventable disaster brought on by greed and the whims of capital. In the United States, and indeed globally, we are at a crossroads when it comes to electricity and the power grid that moves vast amounts of energy across whole countries. A choice now lies ahead of us. Down one path lies the fate of Texas, a deregulated neoliberal capitalist approach to energy production, transmission, and distribution that places electricity, which has now become essential to life, firmly in the hands of private owners who have no responsibilities to the public. Down the other path lies the promise of the Tennessee Valley Authority and more recently the New York Power Authority. Publicly owned utilities that place the decision-making and power in both senses of the word about how energy is created and used into the hands of the people. One path locks in business as usual and climate chaos, and the other charts a future of more equitable and environmentally sound energy grid. Today, we uncover just how crucial the power grid is for a zero-carbon world, as well as how it can be a lodestone for a larger eco-socialist economy that places people and planet above profits. This video is better on Nebula. Use the link in the description below or stick around until the end to find out how you can support Our Changing Climate directly by signing up for Nebula or even gift Nebula to a friend. On Nebula, you can watch this video for free and also watch over 30...
Enough of the Nebula. That's free promotion for Nebula. My god. I am not sponsored by Nebula, nor am I a Nebula creator. You'll find no galactic content on Nebula from what I'm aware of, even though it's called Nebula. Alright, that might not be true.
Stretching across North America lies a dense network of energy, an interconnected machine of power plants, substations, and power lines, the energy grid. A a massive machine bringing power from faraway production to the homes of millions of consumers. Much of our lives in North America function on the security that when we flick on a switch, the light will go on, or when we plug in our phone, it will charge. Without a reliable power grid, that security doesn't exist. But what exactly is the power grid? And what are the utilities that run them? Very simply, the grid is a collection of power plants, transmission lines, and distribution centers that facilitate the movement of energy from producers to consumers. To be clear, utilities are not fossil fuel companies or extraction corporations. They merely purchase oil and gas to use in their generators to create energy that then flows through transmission lines to homes and industry. In short, the grid is the veins and the heart that deliver fuel to customers, and the utilities control, operate, and build out that infrastructure. The grid, especially in the US, however, is primarily controlled by private utilities. As of 2017, investor-owned utilities served 72% of the United States market. And because the infrastructure of energy grid requires immense upfront cost, these utilities need the security of a captive market to make a profit. More specifically, competing with an already established utility by laying out costly new transmission lines, substations, and generation stations is a fool's errand. As a result, utilities in the United States have become natural monopolies in their local markets.
Okay, hold on. Gonna skip ahead a little bit. Can't watch all 30 minutes of this. I do love these hour-changing climate videos, though. Not gonna lie. This guy makes great videos. Incredibly important to have people making this level of environmental related content from a leftist perspective.
In the city of Chicago, energy bills are on the rise. Infrastructure projects and new technologies continue to push Chicagoans' monthly utility bill through the roof, a cost that's projected to reach as high as $650 a month by the winter of 2050. A trend that's reflected across the country, with energy prices surging 14.3% on average throughout the US. This price gouging has led to the immiseration of millions who are already struggling to pay ballooning housing and food costs. Heat and electricity are a human right. We can't leave their price and accessibility up to the chaos of the market, nor the whims of a corporate board of directors, however regulated they may be. This, combined with the fact that for a livable future, we need utilities to generate, transmit, and distribute fossil fuel-free power as soon as possible. A power grid based on the needs of the planet and people is essential. Indeed, any transition to a zero-carbon world necessitates the electrification of almost everything and assuring that that electricity is emissions-free. Unfortunately, capitalist forces are making this transition slow and piecemeal. They have actively worked to maintain a fossil fuel industry dead set on locking in emissions-intensive fuels for decades. Because capitalists need the consistency and fluidity of fossil fuels to extract maximum profits from their production. As Andreas Malm's Fossil Capital notes, the purpose of the current power grid and more broadly fossil fuel extraction and production has been to allow capitalists to break away from the temporal and spatial restrictions of the sun, the wind, and water. The fossil capitalist power grid allows the owners of production to concentrate and highly exploit workers in city centers for maximum profits. Because fossil fuels can be anywhere and burn at any time. This is an unacceptable path forward. Our energy cannot exist to pad the pockets of capitalists. So then, how do we shift energy production and transmission from a system based on profit to one based on people and environment? There are two general approaches to that question, which can be implemented simultaneously to bring cheap, accessible, and zero-carbon power to all people everywhere. The first is centralized public power. The struggle for a renewable-powered, eco-socialist future need to understand the key role power grids and utilities play in any energy transition. While they certainly aren't a silver bullet solution, radically transforming utilities and through them the power grid can be a linchpin for a broader, just ecological transition. Utilities, after all, have an outsized influence on what our energy system looks like. Indeed, due to the immense control of utilities across power generation and distribution, creating a publicly supported renewable transition mandate for utilities would mean a swift transition across the country. Not to mention, renewable power greatly benefits from large-scale grids. A deeply democratic and extensive renewable public grid could transfer energy from Arizona when the sun is shining to the Pacific Northwest when it's cloudy. In short, supporting some form of national or perhaps international grid could stabilize historically variable energy technologies. But to do this, a centralized public energy system would need to rip the decision-making away from private boards and place it back into the hands of workers and communities. Luckily, the power grid is one of the few arenas in the United States where there is already a fair amount of oversight and regulation surrounding private utilities. For many states, this supervision takes the form of Public Utilities Commissions, or PUCs for short, which are state-led elected or appointed entities that ensure that private utilities charge fair prices. As Matt Huber notes in Climate Change's Class War, some states empower PUCs to make sure utilities operate in ways that are consistent with the public interest. Thus, electric utilities are already explicitly political entities. In short, there is already a public body that oversees many private utilities. So why don't we just cut out the middleman? This has already been tested with a massive public utility that is the Tennessee Valley Authority, or TVA for short. Since 1933, the federally run power company has provided low-cost energy to over 10 million customers across 7 southern states. Of course, the TVA is far from a perfect model for an eco-socialist utility company, but it's a start. The TVA is still heavily reliant on fossil fuels and reveals that it's not enough to just nationalize or place a utility in the hands of the people. If a people's power grid is to be truly just and ecologically sound, it needs to be subject to the oversight of radical electrical workers' unions, climate justice, and local community councils, with mandates for a swift transition to a zero-carbon and efficient grid that provides low-cost energy to all people. An eco-socialist future demands a power grid free from the shackles of making a profit off of energy and infrastructure. To truly tackle climate change at the speed climate science demands of us, private utilities based on lining the wallets of investors will not do. Instead, an eco-socialist grid would wield centralized public planning to build out a massive network of clean energy generation interconnected through national and international grids. This
Okay. Sorry, I was typing furiously over here, trying to always forget to add keywords and tags for these videos. I have been trying to add more information to the titles, so at least, hey, I'm doing something at least. Okay, now I think there's one more thing I wanted to look at on this video. You know, I think we should just move on. We're already 3 hours in. Good God, how are we this far? What? It's because I have an insanely long list today. And I showed a lot of restraint. All right, let's talk about transportation a little bit. First, let's go to New York, see how they're doing with buses. This is from 3 days ago.
Undercover officers and tickets issued on the spot. Doug Williams has more on a bus fare evader crackdown from the Bronx.
This is ridiculous.
An undercover transit officer, part of what's known as their Eagle teams, issuing one of many summonses we witnessed on Thursday to bus riders for allegedly not paying their fare. Watch as this woman appears to pay, but the officer sees that it didn't go through. She's then escorted out and given a summons.
In general, you should pay the fare.
I was handed this flyer about that they're going to be increasing fare enforcement, and I said, good for you.
Transit officials say...
Yeah, did you say that? You don't seem at all like a Karen either. But this is ridiculous, okay? I mean, I get people's objection to people not paying the fare, okay? You pay it, someone else doesn't pay it, makes you sad. Here's the problem with this whole plan. Financially speaking. You pay some guy, guy or gal, a officer of the law. I think on average, last time I checked, a New York City police officer makes approximately $30 an hour. And I don't know about undercover officers. I'm assuming it's the same. Could be more. Technically, I don't know how much they're paying these people today. But let's assume 30. $3 fares for the bus. So that means they need to stop 10 people per because they can only be on one bus. They can't stop it on multiple buses at one time. You have to have one guy per bus. New York has a shit ton of buses. So they gotta stop 10 fare evaders per hour to make it financially viable to pay an officer to be there to do such a thing. I mean, let alone for just being a stupid idea.
$30,000 of those flyers will be handed out every single day. Close to 1 million bus riders, 48% of them.
Well, they got multiple officers. You can see two other idiots back there, background.
Board without paying the fare.
Isn't that interesting? It might take some time for people to realize they have to pay their fare and enter either the subway system or in this case, New York City buses lawfully, legally.
Hey, people, they might have to learn some stuff, huh? What do you know? People, they gotta pay the bus fare, eh? Come on. All right, man. You know what? I'm sure there's no way this goes wrong, or that the city loses a shit ton of money doing this. Now, let's go to a different approach to transportation. Here's a little video about Denver's car-free experiment. Why it's potentially just gonna be here to stay. And by here, I mean Denver.
I'm in Denver today, which is a very weird city. There's a pseudo light rail with decent coverage, but it drops you off in the middle of nowhere. The bus network is also okay, if you're willing to sometimes wait 2 business days to go anywhere. But the weirdest part about Denver's transit might be this. Since 1982, the city has been running this shuttle for free down 16th Street Mall, and it comes once every 6 minutes or so, 20 hours a day. I've taken a fair amount of transit around the world, and I can honestly say that the free mall ride is surprisingly good. So good, in fact, that I had to find someone to help me explain why.
I think it helps you experience the city precisely because...
Wait, what? Did he say free? That doesn't sound right. You say no money?
It's easy. Being bookended by 2 transit stations makes sense to connect in those ways.
That's true, that's true. And you might once again be thinking, why should I care? Because the mall ride shows us how even car-centric cities like Denver can build transit-friendly areas. And in this video, we'll see why it's here to stay. Before we talk about why it's here to stay, I need to explain what the mall ride actually is. And I also need to address the inevitable comments about how downtown Denver is a drug-infested war zone.
Illegal
To help me explain, I got in touch with the Downtown Denver Partnership and met up with Ellen.
My name is Ellen Forhofer. I'm the Senior Manager of Urban Planning and Design at the Downtown Denver Partnership.
Ellen graciously agreed to spend a few hours of her life giving me a tour of the mall and answering my questions, in exchange for you liking this video.
16th Street Mall
well,
is
that
the
case.
spine of our downtown core, and along it is the 16th Street Free Mall Ride, which are regular shuttles providing a really important connection between Union Station and our Civic Center station.
Long before becoming a transit mall in 1982, 16th Street had been Denver's main shopping district for over 100 years. But by the 1970s, most US cities were in clear decline as richer residents moved out to the suburbs.
1930s, you see a lot of smaller footprints, smaller businesses. Through the 60s, you start to see some of those roadways.
At the same time, and perhaps perpetuating this decline, cities raised entire blocks in the name of urban renewal, effectively making way for cars driven by these suburban commuters and ironically making traffic worse. Denver was no exception.
I believe it was
Woof.
65 to 70 blocks of our
It's just
downtown
worse.
were raised. Here's 16th Street.
16th Street soon became choked with congestion. But to give the city credit, they actually did something about it. The downtown business community, RTD, and local government decided to completely remove cars from 16th.
Who knew that cities had go back buttons? That's exciting. That is,
I don't want reality.
wow.
Street between Market and Broadway, turning it into a pedestrian mall with a free mall ride shuttle bus service linking the two transit hubs at each end. For the private sector, more people on foot meant more business, and for the city, the mall ride's transit connections would allow people to get into downtown without driving, reducing congestion beyond the mall as well.
The mall serves as a really important kind of frequent connector, bringing people between those two transit stations.
Still, it was an extremely bold policy move.
Human-centered design and transit connections.
Say what?
Wasn't exactly something
Human-centric.
What you talking about?
that we were seeing most other North American cities do, right?
But the gamble worked.
Safe!
Over 200,000 people showed up for the grand opening, and the mall has since become a core part of downtown with over 1 million visitors every month. The mall ride itself has also been impressive. Pre-COVID, the service carried over 10 million riders on an operating budget under $50 million every year. That's under $1.5 per rider, less than the operating deficit of many paid metro systems in the US. But it hasn't been all good news.
Of course, addressing the safety issues.
Homeless man right there who violently attacked people on the
Not a
16th
homeless
Street Mall.
man.
We have a lot of initiatives through partnerships with other agencies, as well as things we do in-house to try and help ensure that somebody...
Well, forget it. If a homeless man exists, we can't have transit. They can't have nice things. That's not how that works.
is experiencing homelessness. What can we do to ensure that it is brief and non-recurring? There are significant challenges to that, and there always will be.
So it's clearly not perfect, evidenced by the homeless population literally on the doorstep of downtown's offices. But the fact that the Mall Ride and 16th Street Mall still exist is quite unique for North America. But of course, you're still free to disagree.
Well, I think it's good. We need more of that. Let's do that more. Less cars, more free buses. Okay. See, Sunday Funday. We are having fun. It's not just doom and gloom. We are talking constructive. Although that's might be a bad vibe going into this next video. Although this one has there's some positivity to this video as well. Certainly some beautiful landscapes. Let's go to this. France 24, English from 2 days ago. Are France's flamingos under threat? Boom.
Shimmering plains and lagoons as far as the eye can see in the southwesterly corner of France's Mediterranean coastline These elegant silhouettes streak across the horizon, an iconic part of the landscape. Some 5,000 pink flamingos live in and around these salt marshes, performing their nightly ballet for these delighted tourists, captivated by the natural spectacle.
It's so cool. He's having a rest, a scratch. He's eating, now drinking. They're so endearing. Their colours, the way they fly and the way they move in a group.
Benoit Sophanour's been a nature guide in this region for 12 years. He's an expert in flamingo behaviour.
Their diet, small varieties of seaweed, little shrimp, planktonite, are readily available in large quantities, and that's what they eat.
Yet this diet's part of a delicate balancing act. As global warming causes water levels to rise, the fear is that these plains could flood, submerging the landscape and making it uninhabitable for the birds.
If the lagoon disappears, their habitat disappears. In ecological circles, we call them an umbrella species. If we want to protect them, we have to protect their environment.
Attempts to protect these areas are already underway, like here in Aigues-Mortes. Every day, Valentin Fangier patrols the salt marshes, making sure the conditions are optimal. It's now the only site in France where flamingos come to reproduce.
If the water level is too high, then it can drown the nests, which slows down the flamingos' reproduction. We also survey the salinity levels of the water because they feed on little brine shrimp, and they are only abundant at a certain level of salinity, so we keep an eye on all of that.
That's incredibly specific. I mean, I think in my head, like, I knew that they were in very specific climates, but I had no idea just how specific they needed to survive. With the salinity level needing to be a certain level for the brine, the height of the water needs to be a certain height for them to hunt properly, and all these other things. They eat sea monkeys. Are sea monkeys brine shrimp? I always forgot what exactly. I thought they were something else. Some other sorts of, some sort of weird. I mean, I know they're not literally monkeys, but yeah, I guess. Basically, they eat sea monkeys.
Vital work which helps scientists who are already looking to the future. They hope to keep the flamingos here on France's southern coast, and for that they have to be apprehended when very young.
We're trying to create a closed circle so that none of the chicks can escape.
Advancing step by step,
This is
these
hilarious
volunteers are
to
working
me.
together to count the baby flamingos, collecting data
It's
for a
the
scientific
flamingoing.
research centre.
Oh, lost a few.
The yearly census is a delicate operation.
We try to do it in a way that's not too stressful for them and get them to stop moving so much.
Once they're secured, the flamingos are kitted out with these rings, which...
But before they turn pink, they're not that cute. I mean, they're cute, but I mean, they're much better looking when they're pink. Not gonna lie.
like an ID card, a unique code for each bird.
This lets us follow them remotely when they migrate, so of the 450 birds that we're tagging today, we'll be able to know over the next 10-15 years where they've been, if they went abroad or if they came back to nest at the same site.
Well, I do hope that bird and all those other birds, the very best. Very pro-bird here at this chat. Galactic News Network, very much pro-bird survival. Okay, let's go here to global news from 4 days ago. Here's another one of those productive stories. Lego to replace oil in its bricks with renewable to plastic by 2032. Hey, good job, Lego. That's pretty good. 8 years, I guess. Could be faster, I feel like. Sorry. Forgot. This one has subtitles. Lego is replacing fossil fuels used to make its signature bricks with a more environmentally friendly plastic.
In 2015, Lego made the first commitment around this, and since then tested more than 600 different materials, and some were successful, some were not, and that's what happens when you innovate. And today we are pursuing a road where we are using the mass balance approach, meaning that we are taking virgin fossil fuel out of the mix of our materials and increasingly putting sustainable materials in, so that could be recycled materials or bio-based materials.
The company plans to gradually bring down the oil content in its bricks by paying up to 70% more for certified renewable resin. Wow. That sounds environmentally responsible.
It's very difficult because we have such high standards for our bricks. You know, they have to be safe for kids to play with. They have to be durable. So the bricks that were made 60 years ago can still fit the bricks that we are making today, and many more quality requirements. So it has been quite difficult to find the right mix and to make this happen.
Now, remember that Lego is headquartered in Denmark, which is more under threat, just sort of broadly by climate change than, say, the United States is. So I feel like that's at least part of the reason for why they have companies who are more responsible, or at least attempting to be more responsible, and a government that's slightly more responsible, although they're not perfect. But, you know, coming from America, it looks pretty good. Now, people who love Legos may have to pay more money for this change. But, it does seem worth it. Alright, let's just, while we're talking about all this different stuff, about the Earth, about the bad stuff we're doing to the Earth, about the good stuff, about all the different stuff that's happening with the Earth, I figured we would just take one moment and just appreciate the Earth. Here's global news. Yeah, global news from 4 days ago. Drone video captured a river of clouds cascading down the Swiss Alps. The meteorological phenomenon known as alpine foehn blew down clouds from above. It is beautiful. It looks magical. Okay. Okay, what next? Okay, we got some more stuff going on in Europe. Let's go to Greece. This is not as fun as the last one, as you will see here shortly. Those are fish. Yeah. All that's all fish. Millions of fish. This is disgusting. I forgot to read it. The title of this is over 100 tons of dead fish found in Greece linked to climate issues. 100 tons? 100 tons of fish? 100,000 pounds? Or is that metric tons? Could be more. Could be 250,000. I don't know which ton it is. In the last 4 days, when the water level suddenly dropped, these came to the Pagasetic Gulf, resulting in the coast especially in the port of Vios and the area around the municipality of Vios. Volos? Is it Volos or Vios? I feel like it's probably Volos. I don't know. Greek pronunciation eludes me sometimes. What she's saying is Vula. Did you hear her? I think I heard it. Volos.
Να γεμίσει ειδικά στην περιοχή του λιμένος Βόλου και γύρω από τα όρια του Δήμου Βόλου οι ακτές και να έχει δημιουργηθεί τεράστιο αισθητικό κυρίως πρόβλημα.
She seems like more than aesthetic problems. I don't know. She's what? I'm so confused. It's genuinely. I don't know where she's getting that. Did you see what she said last? I didn't read it. But, should have. The area around the municipality of Voyu, filling with dead fish, is causing primarily aesthetic problems. This seems like way more than aesthetics. Am I being alarmist right now? I mean, this has got to be a couple million fish. I don't know. Alright, let's go south from Greece to Sudan, where severe flooding has caused destruction and death. There has been a great deal of flooding in Sudan recently. A dam collapsed a week or so ago. This appears to be different flooding, I believe. As you see, the damage from the floods, rains, is severe. Most of the village houses have collapsed. As you can see on the camera, people are sleeping in the streets. And the situation is very bad. We are currently working on building a shelter for the family using materials from the collapsed house, such as pipes and roof debris. We will use this shelter until, God willing, relief comes soon. So yeah, I believe that this is recent flooding. This is not the same from the dam collapse. So multiple areas in Sudan have been dealing with this flooding. Not what they needed. Thankfully, aid is technically now coming into the country, even if it's coming in at a rate that is insufficient and being distributed inefficiently as well. Let's go. Alright, let's quickly go back to Europe, to the Balkans, where they are struggling, mostly farmers right now, with record heat and dry conditions. Here's, yeah, let's go to this one.
In Rastislav Pokrovsky's hand are soybeans shriveled to the size of peppercorns. On his farmland in northern Serbia, the soil was dried to dust by drought.
It's harvest time, 1 month ahead of schedule. Corn harvesting has begun, and the state of affairs can best be described as disastrous. Since June 6, when roughly 20 liters of rain fell per square meter, there has been no rain, and the temperature has risen to nearly 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Crops of maize were lowered by roughly 30%. Our yield per hectare has consistently been about 12 tons, but it is currently just approximately 7 tons.
Serbia, like much of the Balkans, has experienced its hottest summer on record. Pokrovsky's area had a brief rain shower for the first time in 40 days, but it offered no relief. The surrounding fields remained parched, the corn and soy crops withered. Farmers say that along with these crops, sunflowers and some vegetables can be damaged by the heat. As well as the drought, heat has also strained the region's fragile power grid and reduced key water reserves. As conditions change, analysts expect farming revenue losses of over $500 million due to drought. It has raised concerns about climate change, with the country seeing erratic rainfall and higher temperatures that much of southern Europe is already experiencing.
Jesus. Now, grape growers have been doing good, so, you know, at least one group of farmers is having a great time.
The rare winners of this? Balkan wine growers. They say the hot weather has boosted the sugar content in their grapes, and they're harvesting grapes earlier in the year than anyone can remember. In Kosovo, grape production manager Nebi Duraj recommended buying a 2024 bottle in years to come.
Okay, enough of that. I just saw breaking news just now about a environmental, weather event currently happening, which we're going to look at in just a second. Well, not just a second, but in a little bit. First, though, let's go to Japan. Let's go to Japan. Here's Reuters from 3 days ago. Japan bets on heat-resistant rice as summers hurt harvest.
So hot right now.
After extreme weather ravaged Japan's rice harvest last year, the country is grappling with a stark shortage of a food that many see as a crucial staple there. Supermarkets across the country have struggled to keep rice on the shelves in recent months, and some have even imposed quotas on how much customers can buy. With reserves of the grain at their lowest in a quarter century and temperatures still on the rise, Japan is turning to science to prevent future supply shocks and is on a mission to develop more heat-resistant strains of rice. Saitama Prefecture, north of Tokyo, is one of the hottest regions in the country. The local government here is pushing ahead with one of several nationwide projects to develop more resilient rice. Saitama's Agricultural Technology Research Center is experimenting with a heat-resistant variety called Emihokoro, which translates to beaming smile. Researchers here cultivate and cross-pollinate seeds from across Japan to create hardier varieties like
Is that how you pollinate
which has
rice?
been planted in dozens of fields as part of a trial. Naoto Oka oversees the operation.
As there hasn't been anything resistant to heat before now, we cultivated this with the aim of having high temperature resistance and being a little slower than the previous crop.
High heat disrupts the accumulation of starch inside rice grains, causing them to appear more opaque, mottled with white flecks, and less desirable for humans.
I can barely tell the difference. You can see that the one on the left is a little bit more tan colored, I guess, and the one on the right is a little bit more white, I guess. Just barely. But as you heard just now, while it is heat resistant, it yields less. It takes longer for it to grow. So, you know, due to climate change, people everywhere are having to make essentially sacrifices in one way or another to mitigate, deal with, or combat climate change. Alright, now more to talk about in Japan as Typhoon Shan-Shan hit a couple days ago now. I guess it was actually 3 full days ago that it made landfall. Let's go to this. This was, I think this was the last video that we saw together before I took this 2-day break. This is Guardian News from 3 days ago. Typhoon Shan-Shan pummeled southwest Japan, bringing gusts of about 50 meters per second. Authorities have warned it could be one of the strongest ever storms to hit the region. In Miyazaki, footage showed emergency services parked in a street laden with debris. The video of a park in Miyazaki showed the damage wreaked by Shan-Shan. Scattered debris could be seen alongside infrastructure damage. Okay, now let's let's go straight to this. This was Associated Press. From a day later, heavy rain floods roads and disrupts transportation in Japan. Now, we've talked about how Japan has a lot more thin roads. I feel like this would be a freaking disaster. Trying to get cars through with the roads. Oh my god. That looks like an entire retaining wall collapsed onto a road and onto a car. Multiple cars.
But it's okay, we have to wait. It's nature, we can.
This one guy. This one guy is hilarious. Just sitting here on the ground, staring up into the sky with his bags. Sort of reserved himself to being stuck for some amount of time, it would seem.
But it's okay, we have to wait. It's nature, we can stop it.
I mean, it's not. It could be worse, right? They seem to be dry, unimpeded by anything aside from plane scheduling. So, you know, could be worse for these people. Now, this is what was happening. This is the reason why those flights were delayed. Okay, let's go to this. Because this shit is just insane. Okay, so you can see that this plane came down to land and then turned away, right? Like it got cleared for landing by the tower, and the winds were too high for it to land. And this is just, you'll see this is just one of many beginning of a trend. A trend setter, if you will. Sorry, let's go back. Well, now watch this one, because This is scary as fuck. Imagine being on this plane as it comes in at this particular angle. Oh my god. Holy shit. I already saw that once and it's still fucking scary shit. It just goes vertical. Like it tries to go down, then it suddenly just goes vertical. Like a kite. Like it just got caught in the wind and just nearly did like a backflip. That's so scary. I would not want to be on that plane. I feel like multiple people had to shit themselves on that plane. Not gonna lie.
I don't want reality.
That wing almost smashed into the ground. Oh, wow. Okay, now let's look at this. This is from CBS News from a couple of days ago. Around the same time as when those planes are coming down and struggling with all of that. This video came out. There we go.
Meanwhile, in Japan, Typhoon Shanshan has weakened to a tropical storm.
Is it Shanshan or
authorities
Shanshan?
have issued wind, flood, landslide warnings as massive amounts of rain continue to drench Tokyo. Millions of people have been ordered to evacuate. At least 4 people have died and dozens more hurt. Joining us now from Tokyo is Hiroshi Sukagawa. He is a reporter with our partners at TBS TV. Hiroshi, thanks for joining us. Tell us what's the latest on the storm. What are you expecting over the weekend?
Well, thank you. It's just past 6 a.m. in Tokyo, and this past week has been dominated by slow-moving typhoon, completely disrupting the plans of not only the locals, but a lot of the tourists also. The typhoon's moving northeast across Japan, was once into the Pacific Ocean, but it has made landfall back in Japan. And in terms of its strength, the storm's core has dissipated, and it's definitely weakening, but heavy rain cloud is still overwhelming the entire country, bringing disaster-level rain to Tokyo and southern regions.
Okay, so even Tokyo is not being spared by this storm. Tokyo being, I believe, the biggest city in Japan. Now, let's go here. To this. This is Al Jazeera English. This came out shortly after that CBS News report discussing this storm still hitting Japan right now, I believe.
Torrential rain drenches southwest Japan. One of the strongest typhoons in decades. Typhoon Shanshan also brought gusts of wind up to 200 kilometers per hour when it made landfall in the southwest, leaving a...
See, he said Shanshan, so I feel like I got it out here. We got a journalist, somebody else other than me, saying Shanshan.
...of destruction as it headed north on Friday. People in the south have stocked up on essentials.
It's often like this. Beppu and Oita normally receive relatively minor damage, so I never stock up for typhoons. But this time around, given the size of it, when it made landfall, I did buy things to prepare.
The streets of Kyushu are quiet, with many people staying indoors and factories shut down.
All shops are closed, and we find
Now, one thing that Japan has done is engineer the hell out of their cities. So if you go back, just because we're always talking about this kind of stuff. If you look at this, right, you can see, I think there's porous cement. There's like a porous cement layer as well as right here. So like, I'm pretty sure that the water is like, and you can kind of see the slope, right? So it goes in this direction. This is all meant to, I believe, keep the streets free of water and to help drain better. This is sort of environmental engineering types of stuff that we need in U.S. cities to deal with stuff like this. So we don't have to keep doing so much rebuilding. Not that that's not going to keep happening, considering. But just saying, could help. Let's did I have one more? I feel like I did. Okay, this is a... Wait, what happened? Oh, I need to refresh this. But yeah, we have one more on the typhoon. Let's go here. This is Wion. Wion? Wion, whatever.
Let's now give you some updates from Japan, where the powerful typhoon Shanshan that has downgraded to a tropical storm.
Oh, he's doing some weird shit.
Transport
This guy,
Japan.
I don't appreciate that at all. He's going down the middle of the road. Shanshan. He can't decide whether it's Shanshan or Shanshan. He's just Shanshan. That's not. What is this flip flopping in the middle of the word? Pick one. That's unacceptable. Shanshan.
Now, these are some of the latest images of the flooded streets from Sagamihara, a city in Kanagawa Prefecture in Japan. The tens of thousands of people have been asked to evacuate in Tokyo as Shanshan continues with its northward march across the country.
I'm pretty sure that is a sewer.
Asked to evacuate in Tokyo as Shanshan continues with its northward march across the country.
Might be a little bit overfull.
6 people have died and dozens of others been injured as the storm made its landfall on Thursday. The typhoon is said to be one of the most powerful to have hit Japan since the 1960s. It has drenched large areas with torrential downpour, triggering landslides and even floods in many parts of the country. The incessant rains have also knocked out the transport system, causing massive inconvenience to the passengers, with over 100 flights having been cancelled. As many as 7,200 passengers are said to be stranded in the country. The bullet trains and ferry services in the central city of Nagoya are suspended owing to the rains as well. Meanwhile, many cities are still under emergency alert.
Okay.
For all the latest news, download the Vion app and subscribe.
Alright, that's enough of Typhoon Shanshan, as he... Live. Slow-moving storm causes flooding in the Philippines. So yeah, this is happening literally right fucking now. Is it? Oh, it is. It's lagging for me too. Please wait. Hold. Please hold. Please hold. Paused it. Mute myself just in case everybody didn't hear what I was saying. Live footage. Reuters. No, Associated Press. This is their. Nope. Oh shit, it's loading again. Now it's... Fuck, man. Not cool. I'm just gonna refresh, see if that fixes it. I'll tell you if it works for me. Still lagging for you? It looks better for me now. Maybe not. It does feel better. I could be wrong. Let's try. Gary. Please, Gary, get us through this stream. Hold on, this is actually, I just forgot. This is like the beginning of the stream. I just wanted to see what was happening. I'm gonna move forward a little bit. These guys on top of like a bus or something? What is this? Hold on, this is slightly too fast. It's just spastic. Ooh, yeah, good point, Mono. Press live to be caught up with the stream. That's a good reminder for me, because I also have a monitor that I'm looking at on my phone. This poor lady, she's freaking halfway underwater. Oh my god, these two dudes are both... These two dudes are boating, and I don't know what that is. It doesn't appear to be an actual boat. With a chair and a 2x4. Oh my god. This is, I mean, if it wasn't, I mean, it's half hilarious and half sad. Like, the ingenuity of this chair is just amazing to me. We see a lot of people dealing with floods. This is new. I've never seen this. This is innovation that you're seeing right here. Granted, the Philippines has been dealing with a bunch of really bad floods, so you know what? It's like you're watching evolution, human evolution. This guy has taken flood evasion to the next iteration. Damn. Yeah, that thing's not going anywhere right now. Oh my god. Oh my god. They almost ran that person over. Jesus Christ, pal. Oh shit, I think this is the vehicle that was going through the flood this whole time where they're getting all the coverage from. And you can clearly see, I think, actually, it might not be overheating. What that smoke might be, because of the water level being at the, basically, I don't know, 6 inches below it's probably actually directly at or nearly the frame of this truck. I'll bet all the emissions are getting stuck underneath the truck. That could be part of it. Although it might be overheating because it's underwater. I don't know. I'm not a mechanic. It seems like things are going totally normal out here in the Philippines.
Sana nagano kayo ng bangka doon kanina sa ano. Malalim talaga dito.
So this was like 20 minutes ago, I guess. Oh, is that it? Oh, the stream ended. What happened? Did they make it private? Oh, no. Wait. Shit. Now I can't see anything. Okay. Well, I guess we'll figure out what's going on there later. Good enough. I think we get what's happening. Philippines is basically just underwater. I didn't actually pick up on where this was, and now that the live stream is over, I can't see it. They must have made it private. Oh, God. Okay. Cool. It went private. I think the stream ended, and it went private. Probably because the people who was doing the stream went underwater and will never be seen again. Okay, just kidding. Just kidding. But seriously. Seriously, Narwhal. Waterworld is too close to being a documentary at this point.
Do you know what we're here for? Equal parts. Oh my gosh. Illegal.